Usually the presentation is done. I think the only other thing that I would like to add is that one thing that I didn't say is that containers are actually the enabler for globalization, right? I mean, in an interesting way, they are the result and the reason, one of the reasons at least, for globalization. The whole idea of globalization is based on the exchange and the facility to exchange, and the containerization has been a huge helper for that. So if we touched today on issues of globalization, in particular thinking about the high-rise, right? And the idea of how those architecture models can be sort of imported. I think that some of the friction that is felt here is the idea that, okay, here is Korea 2009, or a few years also before that, as we're moving into modern reality and as we're catching up with Western culture and becoming one of the forward economies. We are bringing in this model that, as Maria Pizza was saying, was very valuable during communism as well as capitalism, and now here it is, right? So, as a clear result of globalization, this is the kind of policy. But on the other end, I kind of want to put forth a little bit of a controversial point of view, in the sense that if I think about my personal experience being European, and in particular being brought up in the south of Italy, going to school for architecture in the south of Italy in the 80s, which is a very, very postmodern, history-based moment, and also looking at what has happened to European cities, in Italy in particular, and how history is incredibly important, no doubt, but it's also very scary to see how cities can be paralyzed by it, and how operations have become almost a museification in the worst sense of the word, can really stop a city from being in the present, from being active in the present. There's something that I think is incredibly scary there that needs to be learned. And I know that for us, coming to the US was a really eye-opener, because all of a sudden we saw a reality that was truly contemporary. You needed the air conditioning, you put the air conditioning. You need the highway, you build the highway. And going from the US to the East, the first time we went to Tokyo or we came to Korea, it felt like we'd taken yet another step, because it's so much more, it's so expressive. So you can look at the high-rise and think it's bad, but you can also look, and I liked a lot what Howard said today. We like to focus on what we have rather than what we lack. I think that there is a really key moment there, which is, I think we have to be able to look at also some of the positives of this culture, and how you have to really focus on how you can move forward from that. I have to say I'm a little afraid of in my times, in the past, and in the rhetoric that comes with the sort of thinking that the way things were before was better. Number one, because I don't believe it, because we have gone where we've gone also to improve a lot of stuff, right? I mean, the high-rises offer light, ventilation. I mean, there's all the stuff that modernity has really believed in that is there, right? And sometimes you can sort of not see it, but you know that deep down it is there. And then, if I think about also the US, which is the reality in which I live today, where the problems are much more connected to a completely different issue, which is the one of suburban sprawl. the way people live there is not in tall buildings, but it's actually in very nice, small, little homes that are invading the territory, that are completely unsustainable, that provide hyper-isolation. I mean, if in the high-rise we talk about isolation, in suburban homes we talk about hyper-isolation. You go from your home to your car to Costco or a supermarket where you're never going to know who's selling you anything or you know, the name of the vendor. I mean, I think that then something makes me think maybe it's not just about scale, because scale might not be the issue, right? So it's not just about the fact that these buildings are tall and big and anonymous. I think that we have to think that a city is built of adjacencies and density, and those are really, really important words, and that every time I'm in the suburbs for 2 days, I can't wait to come back to a place where a building is touching another building. I think that that's a very, very important thing, and it's even more important at the ground level, which is one of the problems, one of the big problems, I think, of the high-rises, that they really delete that ground level space. So just want to, you know, kind of the argument that I want to put forth is that I think that as the RAS guys were suggesting, the idea of not forgetting inventiveness and thinking through also those dispositions is very, very important, and that the present is who we are today. Is what our mind has produced, and we, I think, as creative human beings, need to start from that, not necessarily look back, but actually understand how to embrace it and how to rethink through its complexity rather than shift into a sort of more nostalgic mode, a romantic mode, where we look at the kind of medieval fabric and think that that is the solution, because I don't think that that is the solution. I think that there's much more than that, and I think that our task is the one of reconceiving a different kind of beauty, and you know, when talk about re-beautification, it's a very scary word for me, because I really think that beauty has to do with that complexity, and it's not, in that sense, it's not anymore a purely aesthetic term. It becomes a social term, an anthropological term, and something that really needs to embrace the way we live and spin us forward. So I wanted to leave also with a positive note, because I think, I don't know how many architecture students are still in the house, but you have to believe that you can do something as an architect, and it needs to be beautiful, and it's not just about throw the sponge and, you know, we can't do anything because we suck, we've destroyed the world. And sustainability means also not giving up on this huge stock of construction that is around. Again, you don't want to enter in the kind of mind game where this is not good, we take it down, we build it again in a new format that is good now and in 10 years is not going to be good again. It's about recycling.